What's up, guys? It is RGT85. Happy Friday. Hope everyone is doing well, but we got some video game news to talk about, and that's what we're going to do today. So I want to clarify some stuff from yesterday's PlayStation 5 presentation because, well, evidently I screwed a few things up in my video. And then we're going to talk about Metroid Dread because there's been a really odd situation happening with this game that I definitely want to talk about. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video as well. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games, and we'll start things off with the PlayStation 5 presentation from yesterday. Now, of course, I did a full video on this talking about all the games that we saw and what my thoughts were on it. If you want all my nitty-gritty details, make sure you guys check out yesterday's video, but evidently I screwed a few things up, and I just wanted to clarify them because, you know, nobody likes to mess up. It makes you look stupid. So the first thing is the Uncharted situation, and this is probably the biggest thing that I messed up. For some reason, I don't know what I was doing when they announced this thing. I thought they were doing the PlayStation Vita game, and they're not. It's actually just Uncharted 4 and the spin-off game, The Lost Legacy, that are coming to the PlayStation 5. The Vita game is not coming, so that was the biggest screw up by far. I don't know, maybe I was like messing around on Tinder on my phone or something when I was watching that and taking my notes, but I completely butchered that. Now, as far as what I think about that, I would have rather had the PlayStation Vita game. Like, you could play the PlayStation 4 version on your PlayStation 5, and realistically, it's not like they're going to be able to do that much to really enhance the experience. I mean, obviously, you can do stuff with like haptic feedback and whatnot with the controller, but as far as like a graphical standpoint is concerned, it doesn't really seem like a game that needed to be brought into this generation. I don't know. It's kind of a weird decision, and obviously, the price point is going to be a big thing because more than likely, Sony is going to be charging the premium $70 price tag for this. So I don't know. I would have rather had the Vita game because that's the game that I have not played. God of War, we talked about God of War Ragnarok, and I did mess up one thing talking about the hammer. It's Thor's hammer, not Loki's hammer. You know, I'm sorry, I'm not good with my Greek mythology. Like, I'll try to get better with it. Maybe I'll take a course at a local community college on Greek mythology. You know, I'm kind of an idiot to begin with, so, you know, not the biggest deal in the world. But the final thing we have to talk about is the whole release window thing, because if you watched my video, you would know that my big problem with the PlayStation 5 presentation from yesterday was, well, a lot of these games didn't have release windows, or a lot of them were really out in the future. Games like Wolverine, of course, that game's going to be 3 or 4 years away, but I don't care because it's Wolverine, and Wolverine kicks ass. But we actually did get some updates on release windows and release dates for several games after the presentation. It was done via Sony's blog, which is something that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But allegedly, God of War Ragnarok is still on schedule for 2022. Now, I don't think this game was ever going to come out in 2021. So with this open window for 2022, it does sort of seem like, you know, they're leading themselves up to have, you know, a big window for this release so that if it does slip into 2023, it's not really a huge surprise or anything like that, as it doesn't have a concrete release date. I do think it does have a good chance of coming out in 2022 just based on what we saw, because while the set pieces and the graphics obviously look a bit better than the PlayStation 4 God of War, you know, they're not really rebooting the franchise or anything like that. It's a direct sequel to the previous game that we got on the PlayStation 4, so I feel like this is a game that wouldn't have like a huge development cycle. But the biggest surprise to me was that Gran Turismo 7 actually got a release date of March 4th, so it's really not that far away. It's going to come out right after Horizon Forbidden West, and that's something I find very interesting because that should have been something that was in the trailer for this game. You're showcasing games that are coming out for your system. If you have a concrete release date, why would you put that in the blog post? So I kind of got to thinking, why was that the case? Why did they not announce this during the actual trailer of the game? And the only thing I could think of, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case or anything like that, but I almost feel like Gran Turismo 7 might have a bit of a soft launch. You know what I mean? Like, maybe all of the cars that they plan to put in the game, a vast majority of them, aren't going to be available on day one. Maybe some of the tracks aren't going to be available on day one either because they're still working on it, and they're going to sort of push it as a game that evolves over time like a lot of racing games are. That's the only sort of reason I could think that they didn't announce the concrete release date during this presentation, because there's a little bit more than meets the eye with this situation, but I could be completely wrong on that. Like I said, that is just simply speculation, but Gran Turismo 7 will be coming out on March 4th, and I mean, I'm going to pick up this game. I am a Gran Turismo fan. I like cars and racing and stuff like that. It sucks that they'll never do damage in those games because I think damage damage in racing games is so cool. But yeah, those are a couple updates on the PlayStation 5 presentation from yesterday. I still definitely really enjoyed the presentation, but if I screw up, I want to tell you guys, so there we go. And finally, Nintendo released a brand new, nearly 5-minute trailer for Metroid Dread today, both on their YouTube channel and on their social media such as Twitter, Facebook, and all that good stuff. And obviously, Metroid Dread is a big game for the Nintendo Switch. The first 2D Metroid game in that lineage of Metroid games in 19 years. So it's been quite a while, and people are really looking forward to this game. Despite popular opinion, I don't want this game to fail. If I wanted this game to fail, then I wouldn't ever talk about it on the channel because I wouldn't give it free publicity. I think the game is going to be a fantastic experience. I just have some doubts based on previous Metroid game sales that the game will be able to sell over 3 million. If it does sell over 3 million, whatever, I get to make a video on Balan and rip it apart, and really that's what you guys want to see anyways. So realistically, I would make money off of Metroid Dread selling over 3 million. So I don't care either way. It's obviously just a bit of a joke, but I've seen something popping up with Metroid Dread more and more recently. That's something I want to address because I find it really bizarre, and that is the fact that a lot of Nintendo fans are starting to say that Nintendo is ruining Metroid Dread. And why do they think they're ruining Metroid Dread? Well, because of things like this nearly 5-minute trailer today. Now, Nintendo, since unveiling this game at E3 2021, they haven't been quiet about it. There have been tons of new trailers, tons of new updates. We've learned about enemies that are going to be in the game. We've learned about abilities that are going to be in the game, and it's like they keep making videos for it and posting them on their social media channels and of course their YouTube channels. And some people feel like it's sort of overexposure. Now, overexposure definitely is a thing. A game like Far Cry 6, a game like Deathloop, like I've seen these games so many times. I feel like I've beaten the game, seen the credits roll, and I'm going through on my second playthrough of these games just because of the long amounts of time we've seen these games on big stages. But Metroid Dread, the whole Metroid Dread situation to me is a little bit different because of the fact that Metroid Dread is a game that you sort of need to explain. And you got to remember, while things like Deathloop and Far Cry 6, like I said, have been shown time and time again, much like Metroid Dread, they're different stages. Metroid Dread is a game that Nintendo showcased during E3 of 2021, and then everything else has been on their YouTube channels or their social media, so you're not necessarily forced to see this game again. How many times have you watched a big presentation involving Sony or a big presentation involving Ubisoft, and you've seen Far Cry 6, and you've seen gameplay of Far Cry 6, and you've seen Deathloop, and you've seen gameplay of Deathloop? Like, these are done not in just sort of behind closed doors where they're on social media, where if you want to seek out this information, you can find this information. These are things done at major events, so you can't skip a live event when you're watching it. So I think it is very different, you know, and it makes sense for Nintendo to do this. They obviously want Metroid to be successful. You don't release a video game and say, well, you know, I hope it does okay, but you know, if it doesn't, that's okay. No, this is a business. Nintendo wants Metroid Dread to be successful. Nintendo wants to get people hyped up for Metroid Dread. So by doing this and by showcasing the game on their social media channels, you're showing it to people who maybe are more casual Nintendo fans. Maybe the person who picked up a Nintendo Switch to play Animal Crossing, and now they're like, oh, look at this interesting 2D Metroidvania game, even though I guess they wouldn't know what a Metroidvania game is, but you get what I'm saying here. Nintendo needs to do this with Metroid Dread. They need to showcase this game as much as possible. They need to talk about this game as much as possible if they want this game to be successful. It's not a foregone conclusion that this game is going to sell really well, because while I bought 2 copies of it, and you're probably going to buy copies of it, there's a lot of people out there who are not familiar with Metroid. And of course, the fact that it's a 2D exploration game could be a bit off-putting to some people. I mean, let's be realistic. It seems like people seem to prefer 3D graphics and 3D engines instead of 2.5D games. But I think Metroid Dread is going to be an awesome game. I don't think Nintendo is ruining the experience by talking about it so much. I don't think they're ruining the experience by overexposing it on their social media channels. This isn't a situation like Far Cry. This isn't a situation like Deathloop or anything like that. This is a different situation, and it's an IP that Nintendo wants to revive because, I mean, Metroid Prime 4 is going to be a thing, so why not get your appetite wet with the Metroid Dread game when it comes out on October 8th, right alongside of the Nintendo Switch OLED. Alrighty, so that is going to do it for today's video. Just wanted to clarify a few things on the PlayStation presentation, which, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Make sure you guys check out my video of my full thoughts on it from yesterday, and the Metroid Dread situation. Is Nintendo ruining Metroid Dread? Because I mean, no, they're not. It's called promotion, and they're doing it in a manner that if you don't want to see it, you don't have to see it. This isn't something like a big presentation like we saw yesterday with Deathloop once again. Like, I hope that game, you know, I'm so happy that game's coming out on September 14th, so it goes away, and I never have to see it again, and I never have to hear about Deathloop again after the reviews come out. I never have to see another trailer. But let me know what you think of everything in the comment section down below, and as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, be sure to like and share the video as well, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.